Tomorrow, 5 states will vote on whether to legalize recreational marijuana use, but Missouri will not be one of them. We've brought this tape measure to show you just how hard that is for an urban area. In an urban population, almost never are you more than 2,000 feet from a school zone. Senate Bill 656. In February, it passed through the Senate. In May, it passed through the House, but then it was vetoed by Governor Jay Nixon. Residents are starting to get a little frustrated as they're having to take alternate routes a little longer than they thought they were going to have to. Supporters of Amendment 6 point out that you need an ID to apply for things like Social Security. So the idea that older folks won't have the proper identification to get a voter ID is overblown. What they say there at the public hearing on the ordinance may just influence the wording of the final version. In the average time it takes someone to look down at their phone traveling at 55 miles an hour, you can go from here to here, about a full football field away, without knowing what you may have missed in between. A construction worker shortage could keep similar projects in the state from being as successful in the future.
I just asked him straight up, so I'm going to have to serve 12 years in the Department of Corrections. And he told me, his words verbatim, "Well, yeah, that's exactly what your buddy's got."
In July, a judge sentenced Delmer Thompson to 12 years in prison for selling less than a quarter ounce of marijuana on 4 separate occasions. Offenders doing what he did face a Class B felony and 60% serve probation. He was charged with a Class A felony because of where he was.
They are creating a horrible disparity in the sentencing of people who are charged with an offense in an urban area, even a small town, versus outside of town.
Thompson was within 2,000 feet of a school, a college in his case, something that bumps a Class B felony to a Class A felony in Missouri. The rule traces back to the 1980s and is something the prosecutor in Saline County, where Thompson was charged, sees as problematic.
We had the war against crime, but when those statutes were passed, I think everybody pretty much understood that there had to be a different way to fight illegal narcotics.
But Stouffer said he still uses the law to protect people who can be harmed by drugs.
If you're dealing even marijuana on a college campus, I worry about all the people that drop out of school because they were more interested in pot than they were getting grades.
Thompson isn't even the most susceptible to Missouri's drug laws. We're currently in a school zone, meaning we'd have to go 2,000 feet away to get out of it. We've brought this tape measure to show you just how hard that is for an urban area. In an urban population, almost never are you more than 2,000 feet from a school zone. So while many urban areas are here in a school zone, many very rural areas are here outside of a school zone where what Delmer Thompson did would be a Class B felony. You can see just how many private and public schools there are in Missouri. And in an urban area like St. Louis, what happens when you draw a 2,000-foot circle around each of them. According to an ACLU report, Black people are nearly 4 times more likely to be arrested on marijuana charges despite roughly equal usage. They also serve a larger percentage of their sentences than their white counterparts.
I've seen judges and prosecutors compete with each other to see who can be meaner, who can be tougher in the parlance, which means who will be crazy enough to inflict the longer sentence.
They had drugs, like not just marijuana, but drugs, like things that could harm people and things that people could overdose from and die. 6 years, 45%. So I'm like, he got 6, he had pounds of that, and that's it? Oh, I'm cool. I know I'm gonna get probation. I got 12 years.
And I was conscious through it all. So my arm was broken and I was coughing up blood and my phone had flown out of the car. So I had no way to call for help at all. I had to wait for the mercy of a stranger to drive up in the middle of the night and find me there, dying. So I tell all my friends now to just put their phone in their pocket.
In August, Aaron Thomas looked down to change the song on his phone. He veered off the road. The car rolled 7 times.
It was loud. It happened so fast that there was no time to save it. Like I said, I looked down to hit next and then I heard kablam and looked up and I was going through the air.
Missouri only bans texting and driving for drivers under 21. State Representative Chuck Basie said part of the reason there hasn't been a blanket law yet is because it's hard to control what people do on the roads.
It is a problem, and I don't know if legislation is going to fix it. It's almost impossible to legislate human behavior.
Thomas agrees a new law may not solve the problem, but increased awareness could.
It doesn't stop people. Until they really see the impact or experience it like I did firsthand, which I highly do not recommend, they don't really understand the impact.
In the average time it takes someone to look down at their phone traveling at 55 miles an hour, you can go from here to here, about a full football field away, without knowing what you may have missed in between. And that's why MoDOT supports legislation that would strengthen texting and driving laws. If it doesn't have an immediate impact, it could help the next generation of drivers.
If you know it's illegal, if your children know it's not safe, then maybe they would have better practices as they become drivers too.
Thomas, though, wants the current generation to change its habits, and no, it's not worth the risk.
It was all because I wanted to hit next on a Spotify song, and it's not worth it for anybody, for their families or for anyone. It's hard to think about, but I really just wish people wouldn't do it.
Jacob Kornhauser, KOMU-8 News, La Plata.